25th anniversary of Armenia's membership in the United Nations was marked by a concert at Alice Tully Hall at Lincoln Center. Arriving from Armenia to take part in this unique celebration was Foreign Minister of Armenia Edward Nalbandian. Also present was Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, as well as high-ranking officials from the United Nations, ambassadors, members of the diplomatic corps, and distinguished members of the public and Armenian community. The concert began with welcoming remarks by Edward Nalbandian, who spoke about his distinct pleasure addressing the 25th anniversary of Armenia's membership in the United Nations. Acknowledging Secretary General's presence among the guests, Armenian Foreign Minister thanked everyone who have contributed to the organization of this concert and those who gathered for the celebration at the concert hall. In his speech, Mr. Nalbandian described the event of Armenia becoming a member of UN 25 years ago as a dream-come-true moment, and he thanked those who stood by newly emerging state with their indispensable contribution.
And I would like to take this opportunity to once again acknowledge their indispensable contribution. Needless to emphasize the whole significance of this day. It is not just the symbolism that matters. It's not about the status, but the hope and vision for a peaceful and prosperous future that rests in the foundations of the United Nations, that inspires through a common journey towards a better world, free of wars, conflicts and dividing lines.
Nalbandian added that despite challenging times, Armenia never wavered from commitment of building a society that fully adheres to the purposes and principles of the United Nations.
Armenia, as I believe numerous nations before us and many after, joined the United Nations with these aspirations and goals. Armenia acceded to the family of nations during challenging times of its history, but that has never diminished our resolve and commitment to the building of a society that fully adheres to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. We remain guided by the UN Charter that calls to unite our strength to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations based on respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples.
He also alluded to the conflict the country is facing, stressing Armenia's efforts to ensure an exclusively peaceful resolution to the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict.
It is solemn duty of all states, ascribed to their accession, to ensure the full and unhindered application of these commitments. Armenia strictly adheres to its obligations in this regard, including in its efforts to ensure an exclusively peaceful resolution to the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. These commitments also form the central pillar of Armenia's engagement within the UN framework. First and foremost, it refers to our dedication to the UN prevention agenda. As a nation who passed through the horrors of the genocide, we feel a moral obligation, but also an authority to speak out against recurrence of crimes against humanity. Armenia also contributes to the world peace in a most direct way through participating in a number of peace operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, Kosovo, Lebanon, Mali. We joined international concerted efforts aimed at countering the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, combating terrorism and addressing refugee crisis.
He concluded his remarks with the topic of refugees that Armenia has embraced, which from Syria alone numbers in nearly 22,000.
From Syria alone, about 22,000 refugees sought shelter in Armenia on per capita basis, making our country the third largest recipient of Syrian refugees in Europe. Our country does its best to contribute to promotion of tolerance, intercultural, interfaith dialogue, combating racism, hate speech and xenophobia. I would also like to emphasize that it's not just the list of endeavors, but rather the hard-work, dedicated efforts and unreserved commitment that define the full depth of multifaceted activities of Armenia within the UN framework during the past 25 years. As we embark on the next chapter of our collective journey, I would like to reiterate Armenia's unwavering support to the strong and effective global leadership of the United Nations that translates international obligations and commitments into tangible actions, builds bridges between peoples and eliminates dividing lines, promotes good neighborly relations, peace, prosperity worldwide. Thank you.
The concert celebration of the 25th anniversary of Armenia rejoining the family of nations, titled A Cultural Adventure, featured celebrated Armenian musicians in performance that bridged the past and the present. The 1 hour and 20-minute program presented without intermission revisited traditional Armenian folk and sacred music immersed in contemporary interpretations. Featured in the performance were internationally acclaimed jazz and contemporary musicians, including duduk player Jivan Gasparian Jr., saxophonist Armen Husnuns, cellist Artyom Manukyan, pianist Vahagan Hairapetyan, pianist Vartan Ovsepian, bassist Joshua Davis, drummer Karen Kocharian, and the renowned Hover State Chamber Choir, and the choir master Sono Hovanesyan. To artistically enhance the performance, famed visual artist Karen Mirzoyan, in collaboration with prominent American stage director Eric Hill, has developed images inspired by Armenians' culture, history, and landscape. 25 years ago, Armenia became a member of the United Nations. With the generosity of Gevorg and Sirvan Tovnanian, a beautiful building on East 36th Street in New York City was secured to serve as Armenia's permanent mission to UN. The same building, which is used today, serves as a physical symbol of Armenia's place in the United Nations, a place that represents much more than a diplomatic hub for our republic, but a symbol of a new chapter in Armenian history. A chapter that started from the moment when community leader and philanthropist Nazar Nazarian proudly raised the Armenian flag at the United Nations for the first time, a flag that continues to fly decisively and bring pride to every Armenian around the world.